Well, hello there, people. I hope you are keeping very well indeed, and if you are watching this roughly at the release of this video, then I wish you a happy belated New Year. I would have actually released this video a lot earlier than now, as I'd already shown off a few battles with this deck through my previous video, which I'll link in the description below. But I have been sick since the beginning of 2023, and you'll probably hear it in my voice now. I'm still a little bit rough, but I'm at least in a state where I can, well, try to convey my thoughts and show off what's in here, a few of the combos and stuff, because I know there's a few people who've been waiting for this deck release, and it is fun. It is super fun to use, annoying for the opponent, but you know what? You don't come across a burn deck that often unless it's in the exhibition events in the in Master Duel. So let's head straight into it. This will be a really easy deck list to go through, and it's really not a hard deck to use at all. There's only one goal in mind, and that is to cause as much damage as quickly as possible. And you might find that if the battle lasts quite a while, then you'll probably end up losing, because you really want to cause as much damage as possible without the opponent setting up their board, essentially. But you know what? A lot of the time, you can cause a lot of damage quite quickly. So let's go through it. As always, I'll go through the monsters, then the spells, then the traps, and cover off any combos in between. You can see straight away, 3 Maxx. This card speaks for itself. Every deck special summons. There's never a chance that you can't use this. And the thing with this deck is, because you'll be burning through a lot of your cards very quickly, it's important to try and replenish your hand to, again, get those big hitting cards as quickly as possible to then set and deploy whenever you are ready. So 3 of these without question. We then got 3 Mahaama the Fairy Dragon. Fun little fact, I actually hated this card at first in Master Duel because I kept on opening it from the packs, dismantled so many, but actually when it comes to building a burn deck, this is a really, really handy card. There's 2 things to bear in mind here. So its effect, during your opponent's turn only, when either player takes battle damage, you can special summon this card from your hand and apply one of these effects. You can either gain life points equal to that battle damage, or inflict damage to your opponent equal to that battle damage. You're going to use that second effect all the time, no matter the circumstance, as crazy as it sounds, because again, it's all about causing as much damage as possible. The other thing to bear in mind is, again, you can only use this effect in your opponent's turn. So it's not like you could just summon out a Maxx, run into your opponent's monster, and then activate this effect. So bear that in mind. Next up, we've got 2 Lava Golems. I will say, you can put a third one in, substituting Mahaama the Timelord with the 3rd Lava Golem. I like the mix of the 2. Lava Golem, it's great monster removal on your opponent's side. You sacrifice 2 of their monsters. Each of their standby phases with this monster does 1,000 life point damage. The only downside is you can't normal summon or set once you've special summoned it, but you're barely going to be normal summoning or set with this deck anyway, so that effect doesn't matter. And then just talking about this card, I actually like a Mahaama the Timelord. There is a risk with it where if someone effect veilers it or negates its effect through any other means, then it does put you in trouble. But its effect of it just doing an attack on anything, you not taking any battle damage, it not being destroyed by battle or card effect, and then if it does end up in battle one way or another, you take half of your opponent's life points. It's too good to pass up. It's risky, but too good to pass up. If you don't like this card, then substitute this with a 3rd Lava Golem if you've got it. We then have 3 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Over half of this deck is spell and trap cards. You're going to want to protect that back row, so always use this effect when you can to protect your cards. And also its secondary effect of when a set spell or trap card being activated would trigger the special summon of this card is always good also, because you can then reach into your deck and pull any spell and trap card you like, set it ready for your turn to be able to play it. And more often than not, you're going to be activating the effect to see, this is my illness kicking in now where I'm losing my train of thought, so do ignore that. But yeah, you're going to use your turn to protect your back row, and then if your opponent activates something in their turn, or you activate something in their turn, that's set, then you can activate the secondary effect and search what you want to set. Just bear in mind you've got to use that card before the end of the next turn, otherwise it's a goner. And yeah, having a 3000 attack, 3000 defense monster on the field is always good, no matter what kind of deck you run really, but obviously this works especially well in a burn deck covering your spell and traps. And that's it for monsters, nice and easy. Going into the spells, very simple, 3 pot of Extravagance. Make sure your extra deck is at 15 to be able to use them. Again, card advantage is huge with this. Remember to play Pot of Extravagance first ahead of the Lord of the Heavenly Prison effect, because otherwise you won't be able to activate Pot of Extravagance. But yes, always banish 6, always try to get 2 cards as long as your opponent doesn't negate it. Yeah, solid card. Played 3 Pot of Extravagance. We then have 3 Chain Strikes. Absolutely love this card, especially as you've got a multitude of traps to chain to, and that's on top of chaining to your opponent's effects, whether they be monster effects, spells, or traps too. For those that don't know too much about this, activating only as chain link 2 or higher just means that you can't activate it by itself. You can absolutely activate it as soon as something else is triggered, and you're going to be causing a minimum of 800 damage to your opponent. Obviously, you want to try and activate the Chain Strike at the end of a super big combo. So if you got a Chain Strike of, a Chain Link of 5, this being the 5th Chain Link, then that's 2000 damage. You can then chain another Chain Strike to the Chain Strike, because although it says here you cannot activate this card if multiple card effects with the same name are in that chain, it just means that you can't, say, add this into something where 2 Just Desserts have been played, or 2 Ceasefires have been played already. The same goes where you can't activate a 3rd Chain Strike to your 2 Chain Strikes. You can't do that. So yeah, if you activate 2 of these as Chain Link 5 and 6, that's over half the opponent's life points gone already. Play 3 of these. Super, super good card. And then we go straight into the traps. So only 2 Just Desserts in this one, because I favour the Ceasefires, but Just Desserts inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster they control. If they've got 2 monsters minimum, that's 1000 life point damage. Doesn't sound like much, but you think, if you have 6 cards, especially if you're going second, then, you know, 1000 life points each time for each card, you've almost wiped out your opponent, and it's never usually going to be just 1000 life points, it's usually going to be a minimum, so do bear that in mind. So yeah, 2 of these. We then got 3 Ceasefire as well. Love this card. In short, unless there's normal monsters on the field, then this counts every effect monster on the field and does 500 life point damage for each. So that's why I favour the Ceasefires over Just Desserts. Bearing in mind you can activate this even if the opponent doesn't have, or if you don't have, a face down monster. As long as there's 1 effect monster on there, you can activate it. But you don't want to activate it if there's only 1 effect monster. 500 life point damage, no. We don't want that. So yeah, shove 3 of these in. Super, super good card. We then got 3 Ring of Destruction as well. Although you can only activate 1 per turn, it's a big effect. Try not only calculating the life point damage with this, but if you know what the opponent's playing, try to interrupt their effects and what they're trying to summon out by blowing up their key monsters. So yeah, there's 2 things with that card there. Yes, it's great for life point damage, but you also want to put the opponent at bay as much as possible. The other thing to bear in mind with this card is, yes, it's got the effect of you can only target 1 face that monster your opponent controls whose attack is less than or equal to their life points. But what you can still do is activate this first and then chain stuff afterwards if you wanted to. So even if in the chain they're, for example, if they've got a 1500 attack monster, or even better, say they've got the Lava Golem on the field and they've got 3500 life points left, you can activate Ring of Destruction, chain a Chain Strike to it, and the effect still kicks off because you've been able to activate this and target it while their life points was higher. So do bear that in mind when activating this in chains. We then got 3 Secret Bells. Super easy card to use. 200 damage for each card they have in their hand and what they control, and you can activate multiple of these in the same turn if you wanted to. Again, try to cause at least 1000 damage. I try to aim for 1200 damage. If your opponent is wasting their hand, it's not worth hanging on to the Secret Barrels. Usually you want to try and activate it while they've got something. So again, keep in mind what your opponent's playing and then activate this at the best time. We then have 2 Dimension Walls. you can have 3 of these if you want to, because it is a super good card to use. I favour this over Magic Cylinder for 2 reasons here. So its effect, activate only when an opponent's monster declares an attack. Instead of you, your opponent takes the battle damage you would have taken from this battle. Sorry, losing my speech there while trying to read the card. The big thing with this over Magic Cylinder is this doesn't target the monster that's attacking. So there's some monsters that negate effects, or rather don't allow you to target monsters. So Dimension Wall overcomes that and just literally bounces the battle damage back to them. The second thing with this card is this still works with Mahaama the Fairy Dragon, because this still counts as battle damage to the opponent. So you can trigger this, the opponent takes 2000 damage or whatnot, and then you can trigger Mahaama the Fairy Dragon and hit them with another 2000 life point damage. Really, really good card. So play 2 of these as a minimum. If you want to play 3, I would probably suggest taking out a Balance of Judgement, but I'll explain a bit about this card in a moment, so bear with me on that. We then have 2 Secret Blasts. Inflict 300 damage rather to your opponent for each card they control. Again, you want to try and wait if they've see if they get 4 or more cards on the field to do at least 1200 damage. And then if your opponent destroys the card, inflicts 1000 damage to your opponent. Bear in mind, if they destroy this card in a chain, that still works as well. Because it says if this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to your graveyard, inflicts 1000 damage to your opponent. So that still works. So yeah, run 2 of these. We then got 2 Balance of Judgement. I prefer running 2. Again, you can sub 1 of these out for Dimension Wall if you wanted to. It can be a finicky card, so definitely don't play 3 of these. If your opponent controls more cards than the combined number of cards in your hand and that you control, draw cards equal to their surplus. You're going to be ripping through cards quite quickly. So this is why I like Balance of Judgement, and the reason I run 2 is because it also works with Trap Trick. I'll explain more about this card in a moment. But yeah, usually pulling 1 of these is really good, replenishes your hand. It can be a great decoy for your opponent to try and destroy. If they destroy it, it's not a huge deal. If you're able to activate it, great. Absolutely great. Now, speaking of Trap Trick, I run 2 of these. Banish 1 normal trap from your deck except Trap Trick, and if you do, set 1 card from the same name directly from your deck. It can be activated this turn, and then you can only activate 1 trap card for the rest of this turn after this card resolves. So bearing in mind, you can activate Trap Trick and still chain other traps to it before the 1 remaining trap can be activated for the rest of this turn. Again, you notice because we've got multiples of lots of traps here, you're going to be able to find the card that you want usually. Yeah, really, really good card. And do remember that you can activate the card in the same turn, especially if you're aiming for game. And then finally, 3 Gravediggers Trap Hole. I like running 3. You can definitely get away with 2 if you want, but there's so many meta decks at the moment, like especially at release of this video, there's so many people playing Sword Souls, what else, Despia, Branded Despia, depending how you want to name them, and there's others too. But its effect, when your opponent activates a monster effect in their hand or graveyard, or when your opponent's banished monster effect is activated, negate its effect, and if you do, inflict 2000 damage to your opponent. Again, there's so many decks out there that do one of those things, and 2000 damage is hard to ignore, especially when you want to put the pain in as quickly as possible. And of course, being able to disrupt your opponent's play is a big bonus. So yeah, 3 Gravediggers Trap Hole. Losing my speech as we're doing this video. It's okay, we're going to get through it together. Now finally, I do want to go through a little bit of the extra deck. Although it's mainly here for Pot of Extravagance, you might be able to use some stuff, okay? Now I've had times where I've had Mahaama the Fairy Dragon out in the field, then it becomes my turn, and then I can summon out Maxx if I wanted to, for whatever reason. So with Mahaama the Fairy Dragon being a tuner, you can actually pull out a 7-star Synchro monster if you wanted to. The most notable one, Dark Strike Fighter. So if you've got the spare super rare gems, if you don't have the spares already for this, then I would whack 3 Dark Strike Fighters in there. You contribute itself and do 1400 damage if you wanted to. Nice, easy burn damage. We've also then got Ancient Sacred Wyvern, not key to the deck in any stretch of imagination, but if you're doing really good, then this gains attack based on the difference in your life points, as long as your life points are higher than your opponent. If yours are lower, then it's really bad. Don't even consider bringing this out if your life points are lower than your opponent's. But yeah, there are options if you need that last bit of, if you've got a clear field and could do a bit of beatdown, that is an option. So is this. Yeah, don't discount the extra deck entirely. We've also got 2 Clear Wing Synchro Dragons. The links, you can kind of get away with whatever you like. I've put in Knightmare Cerberus just because I've got a Royal Rare, Knightmare Phoenix. I've got Aussa the Earth Charmer, if you pronounce that correctly, if I pronounce that correctly, and Lyna the Light Charmer, because you can either use Maxx or Mahaama the Fairy Dragon as part of its link summon requirements, and potentially pull something out of the opponent's graveyard for a further link summon into Knightmare Unicorn, or depending on your field, even one of the higher link monsters. Obviously, put in whatever you like. It's highly unlikely you're going to get a link 4 out. Just going to throw that out there. So don't feel like you have to put 3 in like I have here. Again, the extra deck isn't the key part of this deck, but it gives you some options just in case. And that is it. That is my Burner Tool deck. Again, super easy deck to use. You can't really go wrong with it. Is it going to win every match? Of course not. But then again, no deck really does at the moment, does it? And it is a breath of fresh air. So I do implore you to give it a try. There's not too many ultra rares you need in there. Again, ignore any extra deck if you don't want to put these ultra rares in there. So it's fairly easy to put together. So let me know your thoughts. Give it a bash. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. It's a burn deck. You don't see it often. I know people don't like burn. There's stigma about burn. But why not use it? It's there. It's something different. Come on, give it a go. So I hope you enjoy. Do let me know again if you do enjoy it. And until next time, you take care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon. Thanks again, everyone.